Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Words, Words, Words. My name's Daniel.
I'm Heidi.
I'm Colin.
And here's the place that we talk about books, words, other things. I have my drama bookshop mug.
Very fitting for the day. Before we get into our book, I have a fun ice-breaking question for each of you.
Hell yeah.
And it'll tie into it, and it's something I found very interesting, and we'll have a further discussion on this. But it's a would you rather, so it's fairly straightforward. Would you rather have complete freedom, immortality if you so choose, to do whatever you want, but have no lasting impact? Or have unlimited influence for 5 years?
Damn.
And then you die at the end of the 5 years. So
Damn.
from however old you are now plus 5.
I mean, if you need to think about this, Heidi, I think I know my answer to the question, which is, I mean, I'm a playwright, I'm an actor. I think it would have to be, you give me 5 years where if my works go down in history like Shakespeare, that you could guarantee me that, I'll take those 5 years, and then whatever happens after that, great, but my name will still be out there.
We're going to have such a fun conversation with this book later. I was hoping that would be your answer.
Well, I feel like I don't have that much confidence in my own mind and I don't know, skills and talents that I would want so much. Okay, yeah, you guys have to say that because you're my friends. Okay,
That's not true.
But
I wouldn't lie to you.
I mean, I will tell people that you're one hell of a D&D player, so.
Gosh.
And one hell of a
and from what you said, yeah, I would love to play a game where you DM. So that's writing right there.
Yeah, that's true. But like that much impact on the world, that's such a scary responsibility to have.
You have
But
good
also, damn,
opinions.
living forever? Well,
I
gee,
trust your
thanks.
opinions. Well, it's live forever if you so choose. You have a kill switch.
Okay. I just see I just mentioned this in our like private discussion on Discord, but there are so many books and like I'm not going to read all of them. So I think the idea of having a lot more time to read more books is I think it's too tempting for me to let that go. Also, my own insecurities disallow me from having so much impact on the world.
Right. Because
I mean,
said
if you
unlimited
think about
influence. I didn't say good
Yeah.
or
If you
bad.
think about it, Heidi, you could theoretically read a book every week of your life and still essentially have infinite number of books that you have not read over.
Yep.
Now, granted, the Earth will die of heat death at some point, but until that happens, people will be writing stories.
Yeah.
I saw a number today that 11,000 books get published a day. I don't know if that's accurate,
Jeez.
but you have your work cut out for you, Heidi.
A day or a
Oh
year?
my god.
I think it was a day. If like, I mean, because
Jesus.
Amazon publishing makes it really, really simple to get published. I'm sure it's
Right.
factoring and stuff like that. But still, you got a lot of work to do, Heidi.
Yeah. An infinite amount
You have a lot
of
of work to do just to read the oeuvre of your favorite author, Heidi. I mean,
Yeah.
Stephen King does not stop writing books
He doesn't. I've read them all though, so I'm good on that front.
until he
And we'll have to
releases
check
Excellent.
with Addie LaRue to see whether he made a deal for that ability. But
Oh, I'm sure
Just
he
not
did.
stuff.
I mean, he wrote some of his best books under the influence, let's just say.
Is that true?
He needs some kind of
Yes.
genius for that.
Is that's? I never knew that.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I
always
think like Cujo is one that he like has said he fully doesn't remember writing. There's probably a couple more too, but I've read
He's so
him
real.
say that one specifically.
He's
And
so
it is,
real.
yeah. Some people
But
think too real.
Colin already gave away what book we're going to be discussing today, which is, I don't have it on me. If one of you do, show it up. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. Take it away, Colin.
Yeah, so this was my pick for the week. I keep having to fight the urge to call it The Secret Life of Addie LaRue.
Me too. I just like had to mentally correct
I've heard
myself as I said the name.
Yeah. So I'm sorry to V.E. Schwab. I think it's because of The Secret Life of Pets
know
is
you're
like the
listening.
first thing that comes to my head. Yeah, sorry. Long-time listener of the show. I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
But
we know you're listening, V. Schwab.
this was a book that I wanted to select just because I've been meaning to get into V.E. Schwab. She's been a blind spot for me. And I think this would have been a good intro into her work for us. And so with that being said, I would like to know, what was your guys' gut reaction to this book?
Loved. I mean,
I didn't
simple as that,
love.
yeah.
I liked, and I will say I think that is a personal thing for me. I don't because looking at it objectively, it is extremely well written. The prose is really great. It's a cool concept. Magical realism just isn't my thing necessarily. So I'm caught in a weird place of like, I liked it, but I think I can admit that like just objectively, it's probably better than where I would personally put it.
Yeah, I think that's very fair too. And we'll talk specifics later. I imagine, I don't want to speak for you, there's probably some parts in there that you with your background probably find pretty cringy in the book too that might get to you. So
maybe
I knew this would be a more interesting one for you with some aspects just because of your background as an artist and as a writer. My gut reaction was I love this. This book made me feel a type of way that I haven't felt in a long time about a book. I would consider myself above average on, I'm not quite Henry, but above average on the emotional person scale.
You mean you don't break down every time something very little happens to you?
Not quite. The dial isn't turned up to 10 and ripped off, but but it's very rare that a book will make me like, that'll kind of get an emotional reaction out of me. A Memory of Light made me cry. The Gathering Storm made me cry. And there's some Sanderson stuff at moments that have threatened to bring the tears out. This one full on, like I have a tear stain on some of the pages. It really
the ending
really
got me.
hit. Yeah, the ending really got me. There's some heavy quotes in there that are just, I think, far too relatable for any human ever reading this.
I need to ask quotes when they come up for me. That's my problem when I read. I don't make any books are a sacred object for me, so I don't like mark them up. But I need to. It's with this podcast, I need to like write down quotes or something.
I really like
Sticky
taking
notes.
Pictures. I like taking pictures of a quote, so I pull it out. Sticky notes is a good idea. But yeah, so overall seems like we're positive on the gut reaction. So now I kind of wanted to get into some specific things because and push back if you disagree. I think the plot of this is very simple. It has a lot of complex mechanics to it that we'll talk about, but I think it's more interesting to talk about kind of some of the themes and some of the symbols in it and some of how certain like instances in the book and certain scenes made you feel versus kind of walking through the plot with this one specifically. Because it really is girl makes deal with God, ends up being cursed, meets boy similarly but completely differently inflicted. I kind of want to initially talk about the curse and the cost, and obviously I think I can't say obviously. We see her at the beginning where she really wants nothing more than freedom, and I don't think quite any of us have the experience of being a young girl in the 1700s about to be set for an arranged marriage. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's neither in y'all's background. We've all felt trapped, and we've all felt like there's nowhere we can go. I think any adult human will feel that way at some point in their lives where they feel maybe like there's nowhere to go. And so she, in her complete darkest hour, she makes the deal where she becomes immortal. She has complete freedom to walk the earth as entirely as she wants, but she has the inability to leave a mark. And I want to ask you guys, you can make the argument she makes the absolute most out of that eventually after she gets over kind of some of the early mechanics and stuff. But you can also make the argument she really did not live to the ability that she could have. So I want to ask you guys if that was worth it for someone, not necessarily Addie LaRue. You can answer for Addie LaRue, but would it be worth it at all for anyone?
It's tough.
My answer is no. My answer is just a straight no.
I think for Addie, at least, I can't answer for anybody other than myself. Like where I am, at least currently in my I'm not trapped, relatively happy where I am in life, in my relationship with my family, with my friend, that type of thing. So I don't see myself going into the woods and begging any god to release me from the prison that is my life. So I'm going to say no for myself, but for Addie, I kind of think the answer is yes for her, but it's hard to, I can't, like you said, I am not a woman in the 1700s about to be trapped in a marriage I don't want to be in and a life I don't want to live. So
again, because I'm an artist, I think I would also answer no. And There's absolutely something to be said about being the muse for everything. Like all of the art pieces at the beginning of every act, that show Addie left her mark. But at the same time, we know Shakespeare. We don't know the Dark Lady. We know Leonardo da Vinci. We don't really know Mona Lisa. And again, maybe it's selfish, but like as a playwright, I want people to know my work. I would love, I don't know that I ever want to become a celebrity, but I do want to leave a mark on the world, and she literally can't leave a mark without the help of Henry. I could not justify that for me, at least.
And I think you make a really interesting segue into what I want, especially you as an author, as a writer, as an actor. I think any human, but especially an artist, especially a creative mind, they want a legacy. You can't help but not want some sort of legacy. I almost do you think the book does a good job of kind of showing that all of these things you can do is great, but it's almost better to be the person who took the deal to have in their lifespan to make this lasting impact, or to shorten their life to have this, obviously not talking about Henry, but talking about some of the individuals that Luke, our God figure, is said to have helped, a Napoleon, a Shakespeare, Beethoven, these people who he has said he's helped.
That's a brutal scene for Beethoven. Yeah, jeez.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. We'll talk about that one. But, is that worth it? And
I mean, there's the whole idea of, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's a 27 Club, right? Or is it
something
a different number? But like all of these artists who die at an early age, Jim Morrison, you still know who they are. Amy Winehouse still resonates. Shakespeare obviously had more time, but like, I'm gonna go back to Shakespeare. He bragged about legacy. He knew what he had to offer. I read a sonnet, one of my favorite ones, for my sister's wedding recently, and at the very end he says, "If this be error and upon me proved, I never writ, nor no man ever loved." He has these little things where he throws them in there in the sonnets of, my work's going to stand till the end of time, and I will make you remembered, which is, what Henry does for Addie. But he knows that he's leaving a legacy, and if you disappear, and as an artist, I think the worst thing one of my biggest fears, I think, is being mediocre in my writing and my acting, etc. Because who wants to do this and then just never be remembered for it? I want to do something that at least gets people talking. Like Heidi saw the Fringe show that I recently wrote, actually wearing a t-shirt that I made for it. And we all agreed before the show went up that it really didn't matter to us in the end. Now, my producer might disagree, how many people came to see it necessarily, as long as people left talking about the show. If they left discussing it and it left an impact on them, that's what I as an artist want. And I think I can't speak for every artist, but I think that is a pretty true thing that I've encountered among the artists that I've worked with. So if I'm remembering the question right now, because I've gone off on a bit of a tangent, yeah, I think there's no way that could be satisfying for me to live hundreds of years but never leave a mark.
And I think it's the great irony in it, right? These people who took these deals that shorten their lives have, like, compared to Addie, it's ironic because they truly are the ones who are immortal. Whereas Addie, who cannot die so long as she chooses not to give her soul to Luke, she's not really living. There's a difference between being alive and living. And, she's just alive. She's not living. Beethoven, like, he had a brutal death scene, but he lived, right? Shakespeare lived. These people, they had a lasting impact. I think Luke it's either Luke or Addie, one of them says it like, yeah, Shakespeare made the deal. He died early because of it, but he's now a religion himself, which is very true. And I think you'd agree with that,
Although I will say what's funny is that if we're talking, just to go off on a historical tangent for like 1 second, Shakespeare in his own life was not as well known as he became. So if he made the deal with Luke, it didn't pay off for him in his lifetime. We actually only really think of Shakespeare as Shakespeare because of the Restoration time period in England, because they brought Shakespeare back. In Shakespeare's time, he was thought of as the uneducated poet. Christopher Marlowe, or Kit Marlowe, who wrote Dr. Faustus, actually, very much a tie-in here, was considered the playwright of his time. So if I'm Shakespeare and I made that deal with Luke, I'd be pretty pissed off.
Got the raw end of the deal. Heidi, do you have any specific thoughts on the power of legacy being talked about here?
Yeah, I do. Because I don't want to say I disagree necessarily. I just think that
Feel free to disagree with me.
Well, it's not even really that. I just think that, especially for me personally, like, I don't really have this, like, I know you guys are going to shake your head, especially Dan, but I don't really consider myself like an artist or like a writer or something. I have my creative outlets and I consider myself a creative person, but like, as far as like my legacy, quote unquote, I don't have this desire to like influence the world or use my art as, or my creativity to that. Like, I definitely crave creative expression. I mean, hence this, and I think that for me, at least, and I think that this was portrayed really well with Addie, like the little impact that I have on the people that I interact with, that is plenty for me, like plenty. And I think that becomes true for her. I think she struggles with it a lot because she, like, while it's difficult, she does end up having small impacts with art, the music, and like the paintings and all that kind of thing. And while she, like I said, she struggles with it, I think that maybe that's not necessarily where she puts the most weight. And I really related to that. Another thing that I admired about the character was her, like, her ability to continue to find meaning, because the deal that she makes with Luke is that, like, basically she can relinquish the immortality at any time and he gets her soul, right? And she continues to find things to live for. Like, there's a quote that I wrote down, 300 years and there are still new things to learn. And that really, really spoke to me, because that I strive for that. Like, I like the experiences that I have in life with my friends, with my family, seeing new things. Like, that's where I really find value. Like, I want to enrich my life. Maybe that's selfish, but I want to enrich my life more than I want to impact everybody in the world, if that makes sense.
I mean, look, it makes perfect sense. I think it can often come down sometimes as a negative thing, but I don't. There are creators and there are consumers, and I don't think it's a
100%.
bad thing to be a consumer.
We need both.
If there were, creators wouldn't have anybody to write things for, or make movies for, or any of that creative outlet. It would all just be wasted. It would just be for yourself. But I will say, with everything you just said, it just reminds me that I just want to make the point that New York City is such a good location for this book. The idea of enriching yourself, but also, now both of you are on the West Coast. I've lived in New York City. I don't live there currently, but one of my favorite things about New York City, you can disappear in New York City, and it's one of my favorite things. If you want to be anonymous, you can be anonymous. I'm one of these people who, like, I very much cherish my private space. I don't, unless you're a very close personal friend of mine, like, I don't want to sit down on the bench and have somebody start talking to me. That could happen to you in New York City, but generally it probably won't. Then there's also all these, like, little touches. Have you guys ever been to a speakeasy or no?
I have.
I have not.
There's this one place that I used to love. I only went there once, but I always loved the idea of it in New York City, which this book reminded me of. There's this hot dog place called Criff Dogs. Great place in and of itself if you like hot dogs, some creative stuff there. But if you call it earlier in the day, you can actually get a number. You go into Criff Dogs and there's a dial-up telephone booth. You put in that code and it opens into this cool little speakeasy called Please Don't Tell. Great experience if you're ever in New York City. Do it at least once. As a New Yorker, at heart, I did enjoy that little bit.
And I love her reaction in that scene too, where she does go into the speakeasy, where she starts panicking because she was alive when speakeasies were more than just, I don't want to call them a gimmick, but more than just a fun
gimmick
business to have, right? She was there when they were, I hate to use the word a necessity, to
legally
get
necessary.
Stuff, but to a part of the unfortunately criminal underworld at that point to get, and she kind of like starts freaking out a little bit, like, what are we about to, then she finds out it's like, oh, it's gonna be fun.
I actually had to stop reading in that bit because Schwab used the term, and I wish I had taken a photo of this now that we're talking about quotes, that it was a reverse palimpsest. So palimpsest is something that's, especially in like medieval texts, they would often erase something to then reuse it. And I had to stop and think, what is reverse palimpsest? What does she mean here? And so a palimpsest is something old that you've erased and then put something new on top of. Whereas in this speakeasy, it's something new that's almost been erased. So something old's on top of. It was just a clever turn of phrase that made me stop, put down the book and be like, huh. and just think about like, okay, let's actually figure out this puzzle piece. Yeah, I've had a little bit of an obsession with the idea of erasure since in undergrad we studied the piece Erased de Kooning by Rauschenberg, which he took a sketch by de Kooning, erased it, and that is a piece of art. The piece of art is the erased. It gives you, it's what was there before, which is just so applicable to Addie. If you don't know that, look it up.
Yeah, that's and Heidi, I'm so glad kind of tying back into your thoughts. So you kind of bring up that she does find a way through kind of, whereas Shakespeare and Beethoven, all those people, for purpose of the book, they got to be the guy, right? And she's eventually, after, she finds a way to enjoy being the guy for the guy, even if the former guy's not remembered. And I think that's really I'm happy you said that, where you're like, I find joy in that. I find joy in helping somebody, achieve their bigger, I hate to use the term more impactful, but more like wider reaching goals. And I do think that, and I think the book does a good job of that. There is kind of a beauty in that too, right? And that to be the guy for the guy, it's a West Wing quote, right? It's the person who, for a campaign manager, he doesn't want to be the face of it. He wants to be the guy who helps him to put the right face on it. And I think that is a good thing that I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, I don't want to write a play. I don't want people to read my writing necessarily. But like, I was like overjoyed. Like I got to go to Philly and I didn't see the full, I saw a rehearsal. Okay. And I like so overjoyed, so delighted that I got to even witness it. And they asked me for notes. I'm like, please don't even look at me right now. I'm so delighted. And hopefully
it was a pleasure having you out for that.
It was so fun. So fun and cool. And hopefully the recording of that play, I can watch it soon, even though I already watched the
When I get it, I will send it your way.
Okay. Like,
promise.
Give it immediately.
Yeah, kind of going in the guy versus the guy for the guy. We kind of get to see that play out for half the book when we get Henry and Addie, once we get Henry's component to it. And Henry gets to be the guy, right? Henry, he made his deal. He only gets a year's worth of time, but everybody is just enamored by this guy. He's the absolute bee's knees according to his deal. Whatever he says goes. And we learn his background. We learn why. First, you think, like, who would make such a wish? Or who would make such a deal? And then we learn Henry's background. We learn what he's been through with his relationships, with his parents, with his life. He feels at an impasse in his life. Trigger warning for suicide, but he gets to the point where he's about to literally jump off a building and end it all. And it's a really impactful scene where he gets stopped. And I wanted to ask you guys, because I found myself, as we learned with Henry, with the guy of the book, I think he stole the show for me a little bit. He stole the show from the title character and me. And I was talking with one of our mutual friends about outside, and I think it kind of, it could be, I don't want to use the word problematic, but a little weird at some points, where it is like, oh, I care way more about this guy, kind of. He's just so sweet. He's so relatable. And he's just, he's so sad. We're all a little sad. He's, he stole the show from me. And I wanted to ask if you guys had a similar reaction to Henry.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I understand it from the story that she was trying to tell, but I'm going to put a little bit of a I don't know what it says about feminism where the only way that she could leave a mark was through a man, you know? Now,
Right.
granted that she's in several other paintings and stuff that are made by women, but like the only way that she can leave a mark is through him. Is through him putting his hand on hers. And that rubbed me a little odd. Like I get it's a mechanism of the story and it makes sense from the story point of view, but I'm just like, I don't know. As a message, it's one where I don't love it.
I didn't relate to Henry, but he just crushed me. I mean, when you finally get like his full, because at first you don't get the full scope of his deal. You just kind of get that he made a deal and he has a certain amount of time, and then when it's like,
can I interrupt you for a second, Heidi? Because I just want to ask both of you the question since you're talking about this right now. Did either of you suspect it? Because I kind of did. And when? That he only had a year or had a very short amount of time.
Yeah, I mean, just based on how he was living, Colin, you put like a very long passage that is like a large quote by Henry in our chat, and that was like, was that before or after? I can't remember. But I did a little bit. I try when I read to not predict things. Yeah, because
I can't help myself.
I can't help
I know,
it.
and a lot of times I can't either, but I think because of how I full disclosure, I read this book in a day. I couldn't put it down. I was reading it. I had an ebook and audiobook, so I was listening at work, and then I came home and I was reading. Like, I could not put it down. So I think because of that, I wasn't necessarily thinking that much ahead. I was just consuming.
Mm-hmm.
But I think because Colin, you related to him a lot more is probably why he impacted you in that way so much more. I think I, on the opposite side, related to Addie a lot more. So sobbing, I was crushed by Henry and his story. And, we've all felt like we maybe weren't enough at times in our lives and can relate to that at least a little bit. But I don't think it took away necessarily from Addie's character. For me, anyway.
Yeah, to answer your question, Dan, if we picked up on it, I didn't pick up necessarily with the broken watch with the tools. I didn't know that he was going to have specifically 1 year, but as Heidi said, I dropped a big quote. So I loved her choice on this. So the whole first 3 parts of the book, we are strictly Addie's POV mostly. Yeah, strictly Addie's POV, and then we meet Henry, and then at the end of part 3, I'm gonna butcher it, but he's I remember you. We kind of get that scene. And then they start having a conversation. They start having conversations with each other. And then it ends. And then part 4 picks up from his point of view, the first time we switch point of view, and we get his background. And it's literally the first page that's not the art opening. The Barnes & Noble copy has like a picture of a piece of art from the world every time a new part starts. So it's after that page, and where the quote that says, "Time moves so fucking fast." As soon as he said those words, I was like, he's gonna die soon. And then when she makes I kind of figure when she makes it, because they get overjoyed, they get a little too excited. She's like, Luke made a mistake. I think right now I was like, I don't think he made a mistake. I think this is bait. I think I think
expect.
And I will say to kind of support that point, I don't know. I know it kind of reads as it feels like intended to be a plot twist, but I think for me, the bigger thing that I was like, okay, I found it pretty clear that he was limited on time. I was like, when is Addie going to figure this out? When is she going to figure out in book that the one person that she's able to actually connect with that's not Luke is time limited? And so to me, that was kind of the reveal. It's like, how is she going to react? But you said you picked up on it quickly. When did you pick it up on it, Dan?
That was what you mentioned was one big piece. And then the other that I'm like, I wasn't sure that it was part of his deal or if he was just like dying of something. But was the Hitchcock movie when he goes, you've seen this before, and was really he was kind of offended by it, because it's like that to me and I think it's a good. I don't always love predictable things. I think it's because she showed and didn't tell. There were clearly things that were obvious in reading it that you're like, this dude's not got time, but it's because she showed you it through believable circumstances.
That's
that
interesting.
You were able to pick up on it if you did.
Yeah, I didn't pick up on that key. That's an interesting one that I will read this book eventually. That's one I'm looking forward to. Kind of seeing those sprinkled throughout.
I think this is a book that you probably, I would imagine, pick more up on a second read.
Yeah, I can't wait for that. So we kind of talked about Henry. You know, to me, he stole the show. To Heidi, he was very impactful. Dan, he was impactful as well. Someone who doesn't quite steal the show, but who I loved every time he was on screen is our quote-unquote villain, and that is our man Luke. And I honestly wanted to just I want to ask you if he's a villain. Is he a villain to you guys? Did you find him sympathetic? Was he also lost? What was he, just another lost character in this world? Not necessarily fair to call him a villain. Just curious what you guys think of him. I have thoughts.
I guess it depends how you view, and I have two thoughts on it. I'm going to get off on a tangent in just a second, and I swear I'll keep it short. But I guess it depends, you know, if you view, so the at risk of alienating some people, the Church of Satanism, for what it even is all about free will, right? At the end of the day, he offered a deal. He didn't force them to take it. Now he did some real skeevy things to Addie that I'm not a big fan of, especially towards the end. But at the end of the day, it was her choice to make the deal. It was Henry's choice to make his deal. Is he a good character? Definitely not. But I think he exists somewhere in between. But what I found interesting, so I have a friend who, since we've talked about my show a little bit today, I wrote a cosmic horror play, and then in doing so invented a god. And the person who produced my play, who is a friend of mine, Heidi also knows, has a theory that if you invent a god like this, you could actually birth that god. And so I was thinking about that philosophy a little bit, or quite a lot, I guess, as especially Luke looks exactly like the figure that Addie drew. So is it almost just something of her conjuration? Because even Henry's deal, now obviously there's other people like Beethoven, etc., but even Henry's deal was something that was done to Addie, essentially. It was Luke fucking around with Addie. So I don't know if that was her intention, but it did make me consider that for a bit of the whole, it's a manifestation of your greatest desires, basically.
I like that.
I mean, he was pretty bad. I think I liked him.
Oh, I always love characters that you love to hate, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and that was definitely, every time he was there, I'm like, hey, you're just okay. Here we are.
But please come back when he leaves.
But right,
if the devil wasn't alluring, he wouldn't be able to make any deals, would he?
Exactly. I mean, he deals in souls. Like that's bad. He left Addie. I mean, yeah, she made the deal, whatever, it was her choice, but it's still bad. Like, it's still bad.
Yeah.
But I do think, like, he does become sympathetic. Like, he does. At least the way I interpret it is that he has genuine feelings for her, and I don't ship the two of them. I know there are people in the world that probably do use sickos, but
it's a bit obsessive.
Yeah, it's toxic, but his character was he's so interesting, and every time, like you said, Colin, like every time he was there, I was like, oh god, here we go, what's gonna happen now? Like, and like when Addie is with Henry the entire time, at least for me, when I'm reading about it, like I had this like pit in my stomach, like when is Luke gonna come in and drop the bomb that he orchestrated this entire thing, like Henry was a trap? That I definitely predicted that. I don't know if it was supposed to be a plot twist or what, but I knew that Henry was, like, he made the deal with Luke. Luke knows everything. So when is that bomb going to be dropped on Addie? She thinks he made a mistake? Girl, no.
He don't do mistakes.
No, this is, right.
Or does he, as we get to the
He's
end.
messing with you still.
Yeah, he honestly, I don't really have too much to support this other than just vibes. He really, really reminds me in the Wheel of Time of Moradin. where every time Moradin comes onto the screen in the Wheel of Time, you're just like, okay, I need to make sure like I'm fully locked in for this Moradin chapter because this is about to be the real deal. This is about to be some cheese. And that's how I really felt every time Luke came in. You hate him, but as Dan said, you love to hate him. When the scene ends, I'm like, no, please come back. He's so interesting. He might be the most interesting thing about the book because the curses themselves, the inflictions, they're not that interesting. They're very simple, purposely so. But he, as the curse maker, is so fascinating. And when you kind of see him start to develop those feelings, you kind of see him, and it's like I jokingly called him to Heidi another Wheel of Time reference. I called him like the male Lanfear.
Yeah.
Because Lanfear and the Wheel of Time is always just going to do what's best for Lanfear. And he kind of does give that, like, but then he starts to evolve into more of a Moradin where it's like, oh, he actually may have like some ideals here. He may have some sympathies that I see with him. And then you can make the argument like, yeah, he's making these deals, but he really is kind of like giving humanity some of its greatest art in a way, helping in a way, being someone like, and it kind of comes into your interpretation of it. Is he giving Shakespeare the skill, or is he just giving Shakespeare, the people, the ability to appreciate Shakespeare? Same with Beethoven and stuff like that. But he is, whether or not you like him, he is benefiting the world in a very indirect and strange, brutal kind of way. And he's very fascinating.
If you, not to get too biblical on either of you, but Lucifer literally means light bringer. He brings light. Like we were talking about, there's also a reason why whenever, you see the devil in a movie, now again, is Luke the devil? That's up for interpretation. This character, the guy, the devil that makes deals with people, whenever you see them in a movie or whatever, they're always either the most attractive person in the movie or they're the most interesting. I will always remember, I'm sure you've seen this, Colin, the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, where Tom Waits plays the devil. And to me, Tom Waits is one of the most interesting men in the world. Like, I wouldn't say that he's definitely not the most, he's not eye candy, let's just say, but there's something in him that draws you to him.
No offense, Tom Waits.
I think if you're going to portray the
longtime friend of the show, friend of the show, Tom Waits.
Tom Waits. I think you should have won the Pulitzer over Bob Dylan, but we'll talk.
That might be a hot take. That might be a really hot take you just slid in there.
Tom Waits has some fantastic lyrics.
That's interesting.
But no,
we might have to talk about
there's
that.
a reason for that is always how the devil is portrayed. It's because they have to be. If the devil was repugnant, it would be really easy to say no to sin or evil or deals or whatever.
100%.
He has to have some element that draws you in.
Yeah, he has to be interesting. He has to be, because we all agree Luke is probably the most handsome man ever, just by the way he's written. Like, I'm like, But Heidi, you bring up a point.
I do think Heidi, your boy, could play him very well. Michael B. Jordan.
Please.
It'd be interesting, right?
Please. We're not going to talk about Michael B. Jordan right now.
That's for our second podcast.
Yeah.
Michael B. Jordan, Michael B. Jordan, Michael B. Jordan, where we talk only Michael B. Jordan. But you mentioned Luke doesn't make mistakes. I kind of want to use that to transition into the last thing I kind of want to just ask you guys about is about our ending. And just kind of what you guys, I'll go first on this one, just kind of what you thought of it and whether you think he did make a mistake and whether it's kind of a hopeful ending, if it's a defiant ending, something else. I personally, I think I think she may even say it like he made a mistake. And to quickly summarize, she, with clever wording through her experience with Luke, basically makes it to where, yes, I'm his, but it's only as long as he wants me. It's not eternal. So eventually, I know him well enough that he is eventually going to be sick of me. He is incapable of love. He's incapable of want, of true desire. So eventually, I will become old news and I will be free. And that pairs up with the fact that Henry was able to remember through this deal, and he drafts his book, his unauthored book, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. And
that was a little bit of a... it's a
little eye roll
of mine when anybody is like, and the book that he wrote is the book that you're reading.
Yeah.
That's like the entire Stormlight archive.
God.
But no, I
mind
get
it.
what it's a little different.
There are times there are times that I don't mind the book is a book idea. Like The Princess Bride is a fun example of like one where it works, where like The Princess Bride is the novel inside of The Princess Bride.
Yeah, I get that. It made me cringe a little bit too. At least pick a different tile. My thoughts on this: I didn't find the ending as hopeful as I wanted it to. I found it defiant, which I loved. I think there is hope in that defiant nature where she basically had, I'm just happy Addie now has something to keep her going at least a little bit to where she will think that, eventually this day will come where his desire ends. And that makes me happy in my headcanon where I'm like, okay, Addie can at least live her life purposefully now as much as she can because she knows eventually there will be that day. It's something to look forward to. It's something to aspire towards. The reason why I don't think it's as hopeful or as maybe Luke made a mistake, because I think, as we've seen throughout the book, I think Luke full knew well how he was wording it. And I think he doesn't lose out here. He gets her as long as he wants. And eventually when he doesn't want her, he doesn't have to be with her anymore. He kind of cleans up shop in this book. Kind of comes, I think it's supposed to read as if he got scratched, Tony made Thanos bleed kind of moment. But I didn't get that way. I think Luke comes out unscathed. I think he's the ultimate winner in the whole book.
Yeah, I actually totally agree. In fact, the ending to me was like, I understand. I think what she was trying to do was exactly what you said, like made Thanos bleed type thing. But it just gave me that sense of dread because the whole reason Addie made the deal was to not have to be in a life that she doesn't want to be in, and here she is. Like,
it goes full circle, right?
Full circle, yeah. And I'm like, this is sad. Am I supposed to feel hopeful because this? I just feel that sense of dread like I did the whole time she was with Henry, knowing that bomb was going to drop with Luke. To me, that's the feeling it invoked. Like if there was like a sequel or something, then it's probably going to be Luke getting one over on her somehow again, or this was him getting one over on her, and he just wants her for eternity, and that's what he gets. Like, I feel...
Yeah, but in the end, if he wants her for eternity, all he has to do is never say no, right?
Exactly,
right.
Yeah.
I don't know, I did cry at the ending bit, but she ends up in a worse position than she's been in the entire book. In some ways, she is in servitude to him now. I mean, I guess just always she's in servitude.
100%
she's in servitude to him. And as much as I do sympathize with Henry and like Henry, is dude worth it? I mean, really?
Yeah, totally. I get what you're
think
saying.
Henry's worth it.
I do too.
He's enough.
Yeah.
That's all he's ever wanted to hear.
Yeah, and I think he is worth it. His life is worth it. I just think that Addie's life is worth it too.
Yeah, because going back to what I was talking about feminism, she literally gives up her life for a man. Like, I think there are some good parts of this book where you could talk about like feminism like this is a good example, but there's a couple of times where I'm just like, damn, V.E. Schwab, I don't want to criticize it too much, but it is not. I would love it to be more feminist if we're reading it from Addie's point of view. And while it's her decision to make, in the end, she does give up her life for a man. It's
for both
frustrating.
Men. For both.
Right.
I will push back on that just to say that, I mean, true, in the literal sense, right? She does give up her life to save Henry's life. But it also worked in a way to where she is finally able to have her mark. She's finally able to make her impression on the world. So in a way, Henry ends up not being the sacrifice in the sense that he no longer gets the girl he fell in love with. And as a way for him to finally be able to show her to the world, and have her impression on the world. It kind of comes. I get what you're saying. I think that's a valid thing to talk about. But I think she actually handles that decently well, in the sense that I see these two as people who both needed each other. She kind of indirectly shows Henry he is enough. He is worth it. She sacrificed, her livelihood so he can be something, because she thinks he's worth saving, and that means the world to him, right? He's finally worth it for someone. And in exchange, she's finally, after 300 years, gets to leave a mark, gets to show her legacy, gets to have this amazing otherworldly life literally told on paper and have a lasting impression and be, the irony is, right, it gets sold as fiction, but gets kind of that thing. I think she does handle that fine, but I don't mean to take away from your critique. I think that's valid.
Yeah, and also more to that point, especially if you take the ending at face value, which, I mean, we've talked about, like when we talked about someone you can build a nest in, like people are gonna see things how they see it regardless of the intent. So, but if you do take it as Addie has this hope that she will get away from this guy, she has the patience to do it. I mean, she's been alive for 300 years in all kinds of crazy situations. She goes insane a couple times apparently, and so if you look at it from that perspective, then I definitely could see that more than the, like, I'm not going to say anti-feminist, but that side of things,
So yes, she gets to make her mark, but at the same time, if we are just to bring it back to the idea of being a muse, that part of her life is now gone as well. I think there's room in the world for both of these opinions, but muses are also extremely important.
100%.
Yeah, Heidi can probably agree with me here that, like, as DMs, you create a world for your players. You create a world because you want people to enjoy it and shape it around them, and they're as much of a part of it as you are, even if, like I said earlier, their name is not remembered. I don't know, I have a lot of conflicting thoughts, I suppose, about the end of the novel.
And I think that's actually a pro on the book, though, that you can have kind of both of these clashing views on it. I think just to kind of bow tie my thoughts on the book, kind of use this segue. I think this is one of the most thought-provoking books I've read in a really long time, in a different way than most fantasy books I read. I think my favorite book of all time is A Memory of Light, and that's very thought-provoking because of guns a-blazing, fire, clash, 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 and sad, 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 happy, happy, happy. This one is, it's actually thought-provoking. It makes you think about, life, and, we didn't even talk about, but I think some great mental health discussions in the book, great domestic violence discussions in the book that happen indirectly. And we talked about someone you could build a nest in, where perhaps the author tried to do too much in one novel. Here, V.E. Schwab is such a polished writer that she can get away with doing so much in one book that I don't personally, for me, nothing that she tried to do took away from any of the other points she was making. And I love this book. It'll stick with me, and it's very special. It's very special to me.
Yeah, I think with that, why don't we, if you want to score the book, if you want to rate it on a tier, why don't we go around and do that?
Yeah, for me, I'm going to try to avoid doing this too often, but I have no notes for it. I think it's perfect. 5 stars, 10 out of 10. Space of honor on the bookshelf. Anything, any tier system you want to throw at me, I'm going to give it the top spot. S tier, Rand tier. It's, Windrunner tier. It's all of the best for me. It's, cannot wait till we read V.E. Schwab again.
Yeah. Had one more critique, and is honestly, like, I just kind of wanted more. There was a lot of her showing, not telling, but I think there was also a lot of the opposite. Like I mentioned a little bit that she talks about, like Addie mentions that she goes insane multiple times, and I'm like, where was that? I want to know about that journey. I mean, there was a couple of things, like she is like in a cart with like bodies, and she's like mostly dead, and that was horrific and visceral and stuff. I kind of wanted a little bit more of like that journey, I think, like her struggles, because I think we really I don't think we really saw her rock bottom. And in 300 years, I feel like you go through a couple of rock bottoms.
To push on that, the rock bottom for me was the Remy scene where she's like really falls for him.
Yeah.
And then he wakes up and drops the coin by her. To me, that was pretty rock bottom.
Brutal.
I'll cede back to you.
Other than that, I mean, I think I gave it a 5-star. I also put it on top of my list. I'll probably end up rereading it just to try and catch more details that I maybe missed on the first read. And also, I'm starting my own segment, and it's does the book mention where the main character was on 9/11? And surprisingly, it doesn't. Even though she spends a lot of time in New York City, a good chunk of the book is in New York City. She was definitely there. Like, so where was that?
That is, by the way, not interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, Schwab, since we know you're listening, where was 9/11, huh?
Right, exactly. Where was Addie LaRue on 9/11? Okay. This is what the people want to know.
And that knocks it down a full number grade for you, right?
Yeah, right.
Are we 1 out of 3
instead of a 10
on 9/11?
Yeah. So, there was no mention of it, and I'm completely
pretty sure we're going to be 1 out of 4 on 9/11, by the way. But
it was so. That being said, I give the book a 9 out of 11.
We're not pro 9/11, by the way.
I would put it in the tier system that I talked about before. I think I put it on the bookshelf, which I didn't love it enough personally to put it, place of honor on the bookshelf. That being said, it is a book that I am glad that I read. It is a book that I think has literary significance. I think this is a book that easily, if I was teaching, I'm never going to teach a class as a professor that, reads books like these. If it was a play, I'd talk about it. But if I was an English professor, I could easily see myself assigning that. Personally, though, for my bookshelf, I would not put it as place of honor. But I can admit that that is a me thing, not the book itself on its merits.
Fair enough.
And then something we introduced in the last episode, I have one of these, so if you guys want me to go first, I can. Anybody have a recommendation? Like, if you liked Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, also check this out.
You go first.
Okay, so I would probably recommend, if you like this book, there's a book called All the Murmuring Bones, and it's a series of God, how do I say this? It is a series of books, but I believe that most of them are not connected except for just the world itself is connected. They're interconnected stories, but they are not sequential. By A.G. Slatter, I believe is how you say the author's last name. A little bit more fairy tale than this, but it still has that magical sense of wonder about the character. A little bit more fantasy, but that would probably be my recommendation. I read it, kind of felt the same way, where I was like, I can admit that it's not my cup of tea, but it was better book than I think I would give it a rating for.
I'll go. I wouldn't say these two books are necessarily super similar, but they do have kind of a similar romance aspect to it and a similar type of love. And I would recommend by R.F. Kuang, Catabasis, that just came out this year. Fantastic book. Not my favorite Kuang, but it's hard to compare anything to Fable. But Catabasis is super strong. It's these two people who have to journey to hell to save their professor, both for very different reasons and both have very different opposite issues. And we kind of get how their story goes from sort of enemies to lovers to how they go throughout. It is really clever book, really smart, and a very, very fun, whimsical read. It's much more fantasy than this one. One of the most unique magic systems I've read. It's a good one. Romanticy in there, and very cute and funny.
That one is on my list for sure. I am curious if you guys will agree with me here on where my thought process is going, but I'm gonna say Warbreaker, Brandon Sanderson.
I like that.
Yeah,
I can see it.
I like that.
It's one of my favorites, standalone Cosmere books by him. It has that romance, and it's Brandon Sanderson. You almost can't go wrong when it comes to one of his. Yeah, I had a few in mind, but that one was the first one that came to mind when this prompt came up.
Like that. I like that comp a lot. I think that's very fair.
Yeah. So for next week, we're going from something very. Addie had some funny moments, but this one's pure comedy. We're going to Discworld, and get your sleigh bells ready because Hogswatch is coming up. We're going to be reading Hogfather for next week. Number 3 in the Death series, but you don't need to read any other. From what I understand, you do not need to read any other Discworld books to get into this book.
That's going to be a super fun episode. I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm stoked.
Yeah. So, for this episode at least, I'm Dan.
I'm Heidi.
I'm Colin.
And thank you for listening to Words, Words, Words. Keep reading. Hey, everyone. Before we go, we'd love to hear from you. You can reach us at contact@wordswordspod.com. Don't worry, I'll put it in the text of the show. Or you can find us on Instagram at wordswordspod. Whether you have book recommendations, thoughts on today's discussion, or just want to say hi, we are always excited to connect with fellow readers.
And speaking of community, if you're looking for more conversation between episodes, we've got a Discord server where we talk books, share recommendations, and just generally geek out about all things speculative fiction. The link is in the show notes, and we'd love to see you there.
And if you enjoyed today's episode, please consider liking, subscribing, and following us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcast needs served. It really helps us reach more readers and keep those conversations going. Thanks so much for listening or watching, and we'll see you next time on Words, Words, Words.